Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 14, which is all about capitalism and the economy. So let's first talk about a brief history of capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system in which property and goods are primarily privately owned, investments are determined by private decisions, and prices, production, and distribution of goods are determined primarily by competition in an unfettered marketplace. The system of feudalism, which precedes capitalism in Europe, began to change as early as the 15th century with the enclosure movement, which forced people off what had been public lands and sent them looking for work in cities. The feudal system preceded again as capitalism in Europe. Feudalism is a pre-capitalist economic system characterized by the presence of lords, vassals, serfs, and fiefs. This system began to change as early as the 15th century with the enclosure movement, again forcing people off what had been public land and sent them looking for work in the cities. The enclosure movement started the thinking about private land and using private land for profit or personal gain. This can be epitomized by the expression, the haves and have-nots, as those who were without private land had to pay those who owned private land for the necessary resources. Beginning in the 18th century, new farming technologies led to an agricultural revolution that helped increase the population and the value of land, and innovations in manufacturing and transportation technology created a demand for this larger labor pool to fill new jobs. Tools and innovations made the work easier and also increased the production of food and other necessary resources. When there's a surplus of food and other resources, the population can increase. Also connected to industrialization was the transition from barter to the use of a legal currency to buy and sell goods, and from agreements between individuals to contracts between corporations, which emerged as a way to limit the liability of investors. The use of currency rather than barter is a huge change in the way that humans interact with one another and has given people more flexibility in gaining what they need. In the days of barter, if you had cows and you needed chickens, you would need to find a chicken owner who needed cows. When using currency, these constraints are eliminated. A corporation is a legal entity unto itself that has a legal personhood distinct from that of its members, namely its owners and shareholders. When we talk about theorizing the transition to capitalism, there are several people that we're going to focus on. The first is Adam Smith. Adam Smith argued that competition, driven by people's inherent self-interest and drive to trade, helps maintain a cohesive society. He also stated that specialization is a key to increased productivity and innovation, and that the use of money, as opposed to barter, makes trading more efficient. These are the basic tenets of capitalism. George Simmel saw the evolution of monetary payment systems from piecework payments to wage labor to salaried work as a force to depersonalize exchange. Moreover, he felt that this was a positive change that helped create separate public and private spheres and gave workers more freedom to enjoy their private or leisure sphere. With a transition to capitalism and the trade with currency rather than barter, corporations and employers found it easier to deal with employees in a quote-unquote professional manner. Karl Marx argued that capitalism created alienation in workers, alienation from the products they produced, alienation from the production process, alienation from one another, and alienation from themselves and their creative tendencies. Marx predicted both that capitalism would ultimately destroy itself and that the working class would rise against the capitalist class, leading to a period first of socialism and then communism. Marx was concerned about the results of all of this. He believed that the switch to currency, the switch to salary, and the specialization of professions leads to alienation in the workplace. In other words, people become separated from each other from their work and from the creative process. Marx suggested that the alienation leads to disconnect, discontent, and anomie, a sense of normalness in society. Karl Marx, again, as we just previously talked about, predicted that both that capitalism would ultimately destroy itself and that the working class would rise against the capitalist class, leading to a period first of socialism and then communism. Socialism is an economic system in which most or all of the needs of the population are met through non-market methods of distribution. Communism is a classless society in which the means of production are shared through state ownership and in which rewards are tied not to productivity, but to need. Max Weber linked the rise of capitalism to technology and ideas, specifically ideas and beliefs connected to the Protestant Reformation. Weber ultimately saw capitalism in a negative light, not because he thought it caused alienation as Marx did, but because he thought people became obsessed with working and making money that they could never enjoy. For example, people who worked in the Ford factory could not afford to own a Ford, or if they could afford to own a Ford, they might not have had the free time to enjoy it. Today, people actually earn less money relative to the cost of living than in the early 1900s because of two primary things. One, only men were supposed to work, and two, men were paid what's called a family wage, enough to provide for the whole family. The Ford Motor Company's idea of the family wage was based on a very limited definition of family. It favored married men with children over single men or married men without children, and it reinforced the notion that women should not work. Unfortunately, the higher wage came at the cost of women's freedom and autonomy. The fact that women have often been paid less than men has served to deter them from seeing work as a lifelong choice. The wage structure was one factor that made women see marriage as the only way to have financial security. Compared to other industrialized countries and some developing countries, Americans work longer hours and have fewer vacation benefits and less generous family leave policies. Even when generous benefits are available, workers often don't take advantage of them, which suggests that work is central in the lives of Americans. While more American companies are offering family-friendly policies such as flex time and quote-unquote flex space, meaning remote work, employees are not necessarily taking advantage of them in great numbers. Arlie Hochschild suggested that there have been a reversal in the sacred and the profane, that people would rather be at work than in the home because at least work is less chaotic. Studies show that working mothers are less depressed and have higher self-esteem than mothers who don't work, yet mothers who do work are also more likely to feel tired and anxious, and they have higher divorce rates. The most important recent change in the American economy is that making money is no longer exclusively relies on the creation of a tangible product. The service sector, the section of the economy that provides intangible services, has grown rapidly over the last 30 years. Working in this sector involves emotional labor, managing emotions and their outward expression to meet the expectations of a job, especially in the service sector work. Compared to people in other industrialized countries and some developing countries, again, Americans are engaging in the buying of not only goods in the sector of tangible items, but also in the service sector. Globalization is the process that creates and intensifies worldwide social exchanges and interdependencies. Globalization creates an increase in trade and economic exchanges and magnifies the division between the world's rich and poor. While globalization is not a new phenomenon, the current period of globalization has had a number of new elements, and it has clearly created and magnified the division between the world's rich and poor. The question is whether globalization can truly be a force to close the gap, or if it serves only to widen it. A corporation is a juristic person, an entity that has all the legal rights, duties, and responsibilities of a person, and corporations structure economic life around the world. The overriding objective of corporations is to make profits for their shareholders, and in order to do this, they must find ways to beat the competition. Sometimes these efforts lead to corporations crossing the line of legality, or at least come close to crossing it, leading to the coining of the term, quote, corporate psychopath. Even some economists admit to the existence of economic activities that aim to move value from one person or company to another without increasing value, and which are called rent seeking. Corporations have had many of the same rights as people. They can buy and sell property, sue and be sued in court, and so on. However, corporations aren't people. Are the problems with giving corporations rights when they inherently don't have morals or ethics? There is a constant tension for corporations in terms of pressures to be profitable and presumes to be environmentally responsible, which can add to overall costs. When a business is not competitive, it may take the form of a monopoly or oligopoly. A monopoly occurs when one seller of a good or service dominates the market to the exclusion of others, potentially leading to zero competition. In an oligopoly, there are only a handful of sellers. Monopolies and oligopolies can result because of profit maximization, and profit maximization is the nature of the corporation. Monopolies and oligopolies reduce competition but boost profits. This is bad news for consumers, of course, as they will have no close substitutes and are forced to either pay high prices or forego sometimes vital products. This is also bad news for general social welfare because without a competitive market, vast inefficiencies arise. Employees also exert pressure on corporations in the form of asking for better wages, benefits, and working conditions, all of which add to a corporation's costs and make it less profitable. But not providing these things may also have a negative cost in terms of loss of workers, strikes, or lower productivity. Some companies and corporations have developed goods and services that broadly improve quality of life. Economics refer to this as a productivity enhancing. When workers formally come together in order to make such demands as a group, they have formed what's called a union. There has been a significant decline in unionization rates in the United States since the 1970s, partly due to union busting, which is the company's assault on its workers' union with the hope of dissolving it. There's been a lot of concern in the United States about job loss due to offshoring. Offshoring is when a company moves operations overseas to cut costs. Due to the presence of illegal immigrants, who are often paid less than U.S. citizens would be, this is also a concern about job loss. Some people argue that illegal immigrants have an important role in the economy, not taking jobs from Americans, but rather doing jobs that Americans won't do. Others argue that illegal immigrants are ultimately a drain on social services and should be deported with no option for getting legal working papers or citizenship. The overriding objective of corporations, again, is to make profits for their shareholders. When you think about this in mind, they don't care how they make their shareholders and their company profits, even if that includes hiring people who are not legal in the United States, or offering fair wages, or being environmentally responsible, or having corporate ethics, and certainly not offshoring labor. To fight for workers' rights, workers sometimes form, again, what I just previously talked about as a union. A union is a collective organization that formally unites for the purpose of collective bargaining. Unions became more important as the pursuit of profit became more important for corporations. Unions traditionally helped to ensure that workers were treated fairly and that the working conditions were safe. When a company refused to negotiate or renew a contract, this is called union busting. Do you think unions are still necessary today? Are they helpful or hurtful to employees and employers? Despite legal protection, unionization has been on the decline in the United States since the 1950s, when 35% of workers in the private sector were covered by labor contracts, compared to just 6.5% today. The result, according to experts at the Economic Policy Institute, is the toll exacted from workers in the form of increasing income inequality and decreasing health and pensions benefits. Workers' wages have also failed to continue rising as they did during the post-war years. As of 2016, 56% of German workers and more than 96% of Belgian and French workers were covered under collective bargaining agreements, as seen in figure 14.3. Wage growth across the Atlantic has generally been better for the bottom half of employed earners, but unemployment has also been higher. In the comment section below, I would love to know from you, do you think capitalism is working in the United States today? Why or why not? Again, you can leave a comment in the comment section below. I hope that you enjoyed chapter 14. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. And remember, be kind to yourself and others, and work smarter, not harder. Until next time, have a great one, y'all. Take care.